Okay, dear students, welcome you all to my today's lecture on steps of research process. And today I will discuss on the steps of the research about how to give you provide you a clear idea about how the research is done in step by steps. Actually, the steps are varies in different textbooks and different researchers find these steps in different subdivision. But I think that for the beginners and the undergraduate students and or the nursing students, it is better to have an idea about the research process in 8 steps. 8 steps actually is on an average is sufficient to conduct the research. Um, Research process actually begins with the problem identification. And problem identification or the problem area on which the researchers are interested to conduct this research. Actually, this problem identification is very important, and researchers must be very careful on choosing this topic, choosing the topic for the research. You know that all the problems are not the research problem, and the research problem actually have some criteria. On the basis of this criteria, the research problem is identified. A problem to uh, a problem to be a research problem, it must be have the importance. It must be feasible by the researcher to do the research. It will have ethical acceptability and also relevant to the policymakers. Then it will be a resource problem. Suppose COVID-19 nowadays is a very important health problems in our country as well as throughout all the countries. It's a pandemic situation. So any uh, issues related to the COVID-19 uh, is will be allowed to select for the research, and this researcher if select the COVID-19 related any issues for the for conduction of research, then it will be accepted by the policymakers. Suppose you know that the lockdown is going on to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 disease. So lockdown have also some effect on the personal life. So if someone is become interested to know about the what are the effects are imposing on the personal life due to lockdown, so it may be a research problem. It may be accepted by the policymakers. Okay, so the point that you must be keep in mind that when you are deciding any problem for the research, first think about that whether it is important, whether it is relevant, feasible, or it has ethical acceptability. These are 4 criteria to for the research problem. I will discuss it in other separate lectures, and then it will be it will become very clear to you about the research problem. Knowledge gathering, sometimes it also called the literature review. Uh, this is another important steps for research. When the researcher decided their problem area, then he or she must enrich their knowledge regarding that issues. Uh, if here it is COVID-19, definitely the researcher must enrich their knowledge about update information on the COVID-19. And how he or she can have this by reading the textbooks, magazine, journals, and articles. And It is actually the literature review, and it is done to avoid the duplication of the research work, to fulfill the knowledge gap of the researcher, and have idea about the research design, study population, sample size, etc. Research question, actually the specific areas that researcher uh, is interested to investigate. When the researcher come to the point that he or she is interested to observe the effects of lockdown on the personal life, then the research question may be shaped as the what are the effects on the personal life of people due to lockdown. And research question leads to the development of hypothesis. And this is the two sides of a coin. Actually, the research question and hypothesis are the two sides of a coin. And research question leads to researcher literature review, and going through the literature review, he or she have some assumption or logical gaze about the possible answer of his or her questions. So research question leads to development of hypothesis. So what is hypothesis? Hypothesis is the scientific and logical gaze about the possible answers of the research question. And good hypothesis actually, a good hypothesis formulation actually depends on the careful literature review and critical analysis of uh, gathered knowledge. When researchers have gone through so many articles, journals, textbooks, and this information then helps the researcher to gauge scientifically and provide the critics about the gathered knowledge through the literature review, and and also have the uh, scientific case about the his or her research question. Research objectives. Actually, without objectives, research work is fruitfulness and bears no importance. And so that's why researcher must be very careful about deciding their research objective. And actually, research objectives are of the two types: the general objectives and the specific objectives. Actually, the general objectives are the general statement that is written in a very short about what the researcher want to do, and the specific objectives are the specific tasks that will be done by the researcher to achieve the general objectives. And again, you must keep in mind that the uh, specific objective, it is not one, it is several, but a specific objective is a single statement. And another important difference is that the similarity is that the objectives are started written with the action verb, supposed to identify, supposed to determine, and these action verbs are used to write the research objectives. And the specific objectives are three or four in numbers. Sometimes it may be five. It depends upon the researcher choice. What actually specific objectives include the variables. The specific objective includes the variable, and based on this variable, the research instrument or the research question is developed. So sometimes it may be asked you in the exam, what are the importance of the specific objectives? So you must say that the specific objectives include the variables, and these variables are used to formulate the research instrument or the questionnaire. Methodology. This methodology section actually the research plan, and it includes so many points in the research in the methodology section, and it starts with the study place, study design, study population, sampling technique, sample size, data collection method, data collection instrument, data analysis, and data presentation. And each and every steps is very important for good conduction of the research work, and it ultimately indicates the researcher that what steps he should be adopt in methodology section to come to a good outcome. Suppose I want to mention here one thing, that study population, sampling technique, sample size is very important. When you decided the study population, among this study population, you have to you must take the sample, and sample is taken by a particular sampling technique, and you must mention here about what techniques will be adopted here to collect the sample and what will be the sample size, and then the data collection method and what data collection instrument will be used. You may know that data collection methods, sometimes it is just observance of in that case, the data collection instrument is the checklist. When data collection method is face-to-face interview, then the data collection instrument will be the questionnaire. Hmm. And data analysis techniques, whether you will be you will analyze the data manually or using computer or any statistical software, it should be mentioned in the methodology section. And in the data presentation section, actually it includes the tables, diagrams in the report uh, for the data presentation. Now the report writing, actually the report writing, it includes the thesis or dissertation that students must be prepared in during exam about his or her research work. And this dissertation includes the research findings as well as the steps, all the steps of the research process, from problem identification, the includes research question for hypothesis, methodology section, all the section, including the reference also, should be included in the dissertation. Now the dissemination of findings through publication or the seminar. Uh, Actually, dissemination of findings through publication and seminar is not included in the exam, but researcher may do it in any place, as any place for this seminar, or he or she may publish his research work in any journals in home and abroad, which one he or she thinks suitable for her research work. Actually, these are all about the research steps, and I think that I have tried my best to provide you the some basic idea about the steps of the research. If you go through it regularly and try to do real research, or when you are performing the research work, then these steps will be very much clear. And so it is not it will be complete when you have tried by yourself to do a real research. Then it will be very much easier for you to understand all the research steps. Okay, that's all. Thank you. Thank you so much for the patient sharing.